Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Skeleton Crew breakdown. Episode 7, we're going to be in so much trouble, just dropped, and we have so much to talk about. This of course is the penultimate episode of Season 1, just one episode left. Now right off the bat I just want to say this. In interviews leading up to the show, Jude Law said Episode 7 would be the one where we learn about Jod's backstory. And so I think a lot of us were expecting some kind of flashback to Order 66, some kind of flashback to his past, and as Jude himself promised, why Jod has the Force. Now here's the thing guys, he did provide the caveat he's only seen the show once, all the way through, and he kinda made it sound as though they didn't show it to him with episodic breaks, and so I'm thinking we're still gonna get that backstory and flashbacks in the next episode. And Jude simply confused episode 7 and 8, especially if they showed it to him as one long episode. So don't worry, I think that's still to come. Nonetheless, given the events of this episode, I don't think he's gonna have a redemption. He was so dislikable in this episode. But we did finally get to see him use the lightsaber he found at Tak Reynolds' lair. I know some fans might be disappointed that we didn't get to see some of his Jedi past, but to my mind, this was one of the best episodes of the season. The visual effects were insane. This was also the best episode in terms of the music. There were elements of the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, and in the scene where Brutus dies, did you catch the motif from Book of Boba Fett? You know, the other day we were talking about budgets for Disney Plus Star Wars shows. I can imagine this episode used up quite a lot of it. But let's start from the beginning guys. On Attin in the dead of night, the parents of Wim, KB, Fern and Neil go to the forest where the children originally departed on the Onyx Cinder. This is where they try to send out a communicator. All but Fern's mum, Undersecretary Farah, gets stunned, and she's the one who's able to send the message out. A message of hope, no coordinates, but instead instructions to go to a Republic emissary who can guide them back to Attin. But because Attin's been hidden for hundreds of years, the parents don't realize there was a war, there was the Empire, and now the New Republic. And the position of Republic emissary originates in the High Republic. So this tells us, as is also mentioned in the episode, Attin's been hidden for over 200 years. So then we cut to the children, enjoying themselves on the ship. They're almost home, but Wim is worried. He doesn't want to go back to his boring normal life. Fern tries to reassure him. They can still have adventures. The Onyx Cinder is theirs. And what's been so great since episode 6 is the children really are a family now. They have each other's backs. Then we have one of the most important sequences of the entire episode. We cut to Brutus's frigate. And if you guys remember, Brutus warned Captain Silvo, if there is no Attin, if there is no Old Republic mint, he'll be sentenced to death by airlock. So when Tak Reynolds' coordinates lead them to a giant gas planet, one that is far too dangerous to enter, Jod once again has to glitter talk his way out of it, and it almost doesn't work. They send in one of the pirates to test the atmosphere, and his ship gets zapped. They don't realize that what they thought was the toxic maelstrom is just the outer grid protecting Attin. The planet is deep within. It looks like a planet within a planet, but the truth is that the barrier is just so wide. But that's when the Onyx Cinder shows up, and this is where everything changes. Silvo convinces Brutus the Onyx Cinder is the key to Attin. The reason for this is one he learned from Tak Reynolds' diary, one which SM-33 says, the Onyx Cinder isn't a pirate ship, it's an Attin ship. It's the only one immune to the effects of the grid. Tak Reynolds stole one of the Attin Mint's ships, so that gives us some very interesting backstory. The kids are drawn in by the frigate's tractor beam, but they're able to use the Onyx Cinder's grapple function to capture Brutus. And that is when Jod mercilessly kills Brutus, takes control of the pirate crew once again, becomes their captain again, and takes the kids hostage. At this point, my dear friends, he has very few redeeming qualities. A fun little tidbit you might have missed is the pirate's Kona has armor made up of Death Trooper parts and the chest plate from a patrol trooper. So, when Jod takes over the Onyx Cinder, there is a bit of a spat as to who is the captain, because the pirate code only allows you to be the captain of one ship, and he was already the captain of the frigate following Brutus's death. So Fern word games her way into becoming the captain once again, SM-33 knocks out Jod, and we assumed he was left behind. That's the way the episode made it look. But as they approach Attin, Jod re-emerges. He was able to sneak on board, and then, the big moment, he uses his lightsaber. He ignites the blue blade, and decapitates SM-33. I'm sure they're going to rebuild him. And who knows, maybe Snowball is going to be important, the rat that lives in his eye. This is where Jod tells the kids they have to cooperate. He pretends to be a Republic emissary to gain access to land on Attin. And this is where they seem to have canonized the word jabber. You guys already know I was very happy about this. I'm always saying no more jibber jabber. And then he tells them he's going to carve up their parents. It was a very dark episode for Jod. A visual reference you might have missed, Jod decapitating SM-33 with a blue blade is a callback to Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan Kenobi did the same to Grievous's guards. And as you're going to see guys, this isn't the only prequel trilogy reference in the second half of this episode. So as they begin to land on Attin, the parents of the children are about to face punishment. They're gathered together and greeted by a security droid. And by the way guys, did you notice the parents have become their own friendship group? The safety droid is interrupted by an announcement from the supervisor. This is the first time we've heard the supervisor talk, and he's not a droid. Did you know, and this is the most insane Star Wars cameo you would ever expect, the supervisor is voiced by Stephen Fry, British legend, and he announces the arrival of a Republic emissary and how all non-essential work must be suspended. Something like this hasn't happened in hundreds of years. Obviously it's not a Republic emissary, it's Jod and the kids, but an external arrival on Attin hasn't happened in any of these people's lifetimes. It's truly something of a marvel to be gawked at. Now because we've had a huge hint about the supervisor's identity, I want to restate a theory I had a few weeks ago. The supervisor is long dead, he doesn't exist anymore and was never replaced. The droids are running things, everything is pre-programmed and automated. It's why they're saving the big reveal for next week, where we know from one of the trailers, the children and their parents meet the supervisor, or should I say, go to his tower and discover the truth. The truth, there is no one there. Some of the other theories I've looked at over the last few weeks can now be somewhat ruled out. I don't think Tak Reynolds is the supervisor, because I also think he's long dead. He might have killed the original one. But back to the plot. Jod, who is impersonating a Republic emissary, is taken down to the vault, the Old Republic Mint. These are some of the most impressive visuals of the entire episode. The entire sequence of Jod being guided round is inspired by Obi-Wan being guided round by Lama Su on Kamino in Attack of the Clones. The safety droid even repeats one of Lama Su's famous lines, "I'd hoped you'd be pleased." Another cool reference, Jod says, "Remind me, how many vaults do you have like this?" And the droid answers, 1139. This is a twist on one of George Lucas's earlier works, THX 1138. I wonder why they added an extra number. But Jod finally gets to the Mint. I think the safety droids are going to realize very soon he isn't there on Republic business. He's not there to unload a shipment. And now the kids are reunited with their parents. I'm sure they're going to say something. But the episode ends on a cliffhanger. Jod igniting his lightsaber, ready to kill the parents. It's very dark. I truly see him as a certified villain. And while I previously hoped for redemption, I just can't see that happening, guys. And how can you say you didn't like the scene where Jod is maniacally laughing as the credits fall into his hands? I kind of like the idea that he's an antagonist. And if they do give us his backstory, if we do see an Order 66 flashback, is it going to really benefit the character at this point? All I'm saying is, don't be surprised if that doesn't happen. Jude did say we learned some stuff, but if you look at that statement very vaguely, you can say from a certain point of view, in this episode, we do learn a lot. And did you notice, he didn't seem too proficient with the lightsaber. There wasn't any semblance of Jedi elegance to his handling of the blade, so either he was never fully trained because he was a youngling during Order 66, or he's the child of a Jedi survivor. But to my mind, this was one of the strongest of the season so far, directed by Lee Isaac Chung, and the final episode next week is directed by John Watts, who also had episode 1, the showrunner. One of the strongest points of this episode and generally the entire season, I would say, is how the kids actually talk like kids, but not in a way that's always irritating. They took the best aspects of Goonies. It feels a bit more authentic. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know your thoughts down below. I'll be breaking down more aspects of the episode later in the week, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.